Hello, all. A question that I ask often, whether it's to romantic interests or new friends, strangers that I meet as I'm yapping my way through life, is what's your favorite compliment? And I ask this because I think it tells you a lot about a person, right? It tells you, one, who they value, and two, what they value. So if you ask them what their favorite compliment is and it's from one of their friends, or it's from a stranger, or it's from their mother, or whoever, that tells you a lot. Also, it tells you a lot about what they value. So if you ask your employer, for instance, what's the best compliment that you've gotten from a former employee, and they tell you, I had a get together over at my place, invited the whole company, and people were just really impressed at how much money I had or how nice my car was or whatever. It tells you a lot. If you ask a potential romantic interest, what was your favorite compliment that an ex has given you? And they say that she said that I made her feel really safe physically and emotionally, or that I was very selfless. I was very giving. Please excuse me. It's 8 degrees here. I was just outside trying to dig my car out. My nose is running. I'm sure my nose is like a little red and a little swollen. It is what it is. But anywho, the compliments that people value tell you a lot about them, right? And as I was thinking about this question for myself, which is the inspiration for this video, there are a couple of compliments that really stand out to me. And one of them specifically is, you've grown up to be such an interesting and dynamic person, which I think can feel a little surface level, but I wanted to dig into it a little bit deeper and really think about the life decisions that I've made and how my life has kind of played out. The things that I could control, at least, that may have contributed to this person giving me that compliment. And a couple of things stand out immediately, which is the general things that I try to live by, that I try to keep in the forefront of my mind as I'm going through my life. One of them is curiosity, and the other is doing things either scared or doing things in spite of other people thinking that you're weird or the thing is weird. And I'll give you some examples. Being curious in general is something that I think unfortunately gets kind of relegated to childhood. Like, oh, when you're a kid, you can always ask why. But when you get to be an adult, you're expected to know why things happen. You're supposed to automatically understand how the world works. You're supposed to know exactly what you want to do with your life and exactly the type of people that you want to be around. And that's not how it works for the majority of people. And I'm really happy that throughout my life, still exhibiting a lot of curiosity, even when other people look at you and they're like, you don't know that. No, I don't. I'm still figuring things out. 29 years old, about to be 30, still figuring things out. Still trying to figure out what I'm interested in and not being afraid to try things to figure it out. So I look at the last, let's say, 10 years of my life. It even into like middle school and high school as well, but specifically the past 10 years of my life and the different hobbies that I've had. Um, the different people that I've gotten to know just because, other people thought they were weird. And I was like, they might be. They might be. They might be a little crazy. But what's the harm? At the end of the day, there's so many things that we can do that really don't have much bearing on how our life turns out. So the risk is relatively low, but I think the potential benefit is pretty high. For example, Again, thinking about different hobbies that I've started. I personally had never seen a black woman play the harp before. Like the harp, like the big stringed instrument. There are small ones that sit on your lap, but usually it's like the big ones you see playing at weddings and shows and whatnot. I never knew anyone that did that. Most people are learning how to play the guitar, they're learning how to play the piano, they might be learning how to play the drums. There are a couple other instruments that are, I would say, pretty relatively popular considering. And rather than being like, I've never seen anyone under the age of 65 that's not white do this, just like, okay, I'm going to be the first person that everyone I know has done it. That adds just a little bit, not just to like myself, but to the overarching kind of tapestry, story, whatever of my life. Or I think of, traveling somewhere, not even like crazy, but maybe taking a day trip somewhere, sitting at a cafe and just starting a conversation with the person next to me because of a book that I see that they're reading. Or I know the introverts. The introverts and y'all are like, oh my God. What's that? Oh my gosh. I'm never going outside when it's this cold again. Uh and you learn a lot about a person. I was sitting on a plane not the other day, a few weeks ago, and there was a guy just tip tapping away on his laptop. And I wasn't trying to be nosy, but I was looking at, okay, maybe I was being a little bit nosy, looking at his laptop, and I'm seeing all these, like, not even machines, but you can tell they're like some kind of mechanical part. And I'm just like, hi, what kind of work do you do? Like, whatever. It started like a 10-minute conversation where he's telling me about how he's a product manager for some, I don't know, water treatment. I don't know. Super interesting. It was just, I don't know. It's stuff like that I think about. And most people would have those questions in their head of, what if he doesn't want to talk? What if he's rude? What if he's mean? Then we have to sit here awkwardly for the rest of the 2 hours of the flight. Relatively low risk. Okay, what if he is mean? All right, put my earplug back in and it's whatever. What if the rest of the ride is awkward? It's only awkward if you make it awkward. Again, if your headphones are in, if you're watching your own show, if you're reading your own book, what difference does it make? And if we're thinking about like broader life decisions, for instance, deciding to start a new career, it's obviously a much bigger decision that has a lot more effects on your life. But I also think that I've mastered the art of calculated risk taking, which I also want to make a video about because I think more of us could be better at doing things that scare us in a way that's still safe, that still, won't blow up our lives. Cause I don't know, in the age of social media, man, people will just be doing stuff, and I'm a very why not just do it type of person. However, I don't want my life to be in shambles, and I feel like more of us could probably use a little bit more of that discretion, a little bit more fear, a little bit, If we're going to be taking big risks, I prefer to do it a little bit more calculated. But again, uh thinking about this big career change, and I had been doing my previous job basically since right out of high school. So it had been just under a decade that I had been in healthcare doing the same job, different places, but the same job. And I thought about, one, I'm not the type of person to want to do the same thing for that long. Like I'm actually surprised that I I was in that job for so long. I mean, it was secure. It's nice, to have a skill that will always be in demand. Like, it's not a job that, for instance, AI could do. So it's nice to kind of have that in your back pocket. But when I looked at what I wanted my life to look like, when I thought about who I wanted to be, I knew this job wasn't going to do it. And part of being dynamic is kind of there being a constant state of change. Not that it has to be crazy, not that you have to be moving cities every 6 months and, always hopping into a new job, but I do think that to be someone who is interesting and dynamic, you kind of have to be making these incremental changes throughout your life, whether it's a new hobby, whether it's new friend groups, whether it's a new career every once in a while. Um, whether it's really indulging yourself in your interests and figuring out what you're interested in by just experimenting. I think there are a lot of people who, even when, for instance, they're dating, they date the same type of person all the time. And then the person they marry ends up being completely different from like their type. And I think about that just because I wonder with a lot of those people how different their life would look if they had opened themselves up more to different types of people, whether it's just different looks. If you're always into blondes and hey, you decide to try a brunette, it's like, oh, crazy, right? Or people from different cultures and different ethnicities and different places, even if it's here in the States. Like, I don't know. I just think there are a lot of places that all of us can implement these little changes or little bits of experimentation that again can be relatively low risk in the grand scheme of things. And I'm really proud of the fact that I think I got that down pretty well when I was relatively young, just doing things for the sake of doing it for the sake of you just wanting to try it. There not being a utility to it or like a grander goal or bigger scheme. Scheme is the wrong word, but you know what I mean. Just there's no overarching reason for it other than I want to try it. Other than I wanted to see if I'd like it. Other than I knew nothing about this and I wanted to learn. I think a lot of us can benefit from being just a smidgen more bold in our lives. Just yeah, I don't know. Taking little risks, making little changes to the way that we think and the way that we operate in our day-to-day lives. So yeah, that's a little bit of what I was thinking today. Thank you for listening to my rambling. And check in tomorrow if you're interested in hearing more of my yap sessions. I think I have 10 videos up now of me just yapping. And yeah, I'm interested to see if there are other people who feel like there are similar themes that have run through their life in terms of curiosity, in terms of doing things that scared them a little bit, in terms of calculated risk taking. I think those people are the most interesting. I think those people are the most open. There are probably a lot of words I could use for people like that, but ultimately, it helps you build a more interesting life. And there's very little downside in experimentation for the most part. So, figure out how you can be just a little bit more experimental in your life. There are lots of things that you can't control, but other things that you can, spice it up a little bit. All right. Thanks, guys. Check in tomorrow. Posting every single day. See you tomorrow. Bye.